Jumpin' Jack Flash. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards had got plastered one night and taken you know what. And they were lying down and they woke up. They were in Keith Richards' house in Redlands out in the country outside of London. Next minute there was a big crash of bottles. Jagger jumps up. He goes, "What the hell is that?" "Oh, that's Jack." "Who's Jack?" "Jack's the gardener and he hit the bottles." Jumpin' Jack Flash. Jagger gets the pen out and he writes the classic Jumping Jack Flash, which in fact is Liam Gallagher from Oasis's favourite Rolling Stones song. But there's so many stories about the Rolling Stones. For example, Gimme Shelter. Now, Keith Richards had an affair with Marianne Faithfull, who was Jagger's girlfriend at the time. Jagger came driving in the driveway. Keith Richards had to put on his clothes, but he left his socks and he had to jump out the window, and it was Gimme Shelter from Mick Jagger. But there's so many classic Rolling Stones. This, of course, Ronnie Wood, the great painter who was with Faces with Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart being the meanest guy in rock and roll. We'll have an episode on rock and roll and Rod Stewart, of course. But he used to win, brilliant artist, and he used to win the Blue Peter show years ago. He was a water gypsy and he used to win the children's art program. But what a great artist Ronnie Wood, and great guitarist. He said the Edge from U2 taught him a lot about playing the guitar. But so many different stories with the Rolling Stones. Of course, Mick Jagger used to get head before he went on stage when they were doing their drugs. Sympathy for the Devil, the classic song. Of course, hugely influenced by Oscar Wilde. The Stones were, they made a movie about Oscar Wilde. Marianne Faithfull played Bosie and Mick Jagger played Oscar Wilde. And in the song Sympathy for the Devil, Mick Jagger wears a big long cape where he's in tribute to Oscar Wilde. And in the song it says, every cop is a criminal and every saint is a sinner. And of course, Keith Richards used to hide his drugs in the tree opposite his house, his cottage in Redlands. And that's where he hid the drugs. But there was a drug bust. And when the drug bust happened, Keith Richards turned around and said, "We'll go in with our flowers in our jackets, dressed wild in meaning, dressed like the way Oscar Wilde would have dressed in his trial in the Old Bailey." But every cop was a criminal because the cops at the time used to plant a lot of the drugs on the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Now, of course, they were taking their drugs as well. But and then every saint is a sinner. Pope John Paul, who was made a saint, went to Africa and told all the people if they wore a condom, they would get AIDS, and we all know what happened there. 5 million people died, yet they made him a saint. Now, the Rolling Stones were saying this in 1969, and Keith Richards was very angry with Mick Jagger when he received his knighthood. Now, he didn't receive the knighthood from the Queen because she couldn't stand him, because he'd been having an affair with her sister, Princess Margaret, of course. But such classic songs, and then Miss You in the 1970s when they were in Studio 54 and Jagger wanted to go more pop, which was another classic. But Jumpin' Jack Flash, so many classics. Of course, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, Brown Sugar, all about heroin, and so many more. But we'll have lots more stories about the Rolling Stones, and of course, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you know. But here they are, the Rolling Stones, of course. But what a fantastic, probably the best live band of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And then in Los Angeles, when Ronnie Wood was living beside Tony Curtis, that great American actor, and he had a collection of very vintage, beautiful wines. Some of the wines valued at 25,000 US dollars. Didn't he have a big party? And he invited so many people in. They were drinking his expensive wine. And Christopher Reeve, God rest his soul, who played Superman, and he was plastered on the couch the next morning, and his little son was only 8 or 9, said, "Daddy, Daddy, Superman is after dying on the couch." But that's just a few little stories about the Rolling Stones. Please subscribe if you do like our channel. We're going to have lots more. After all, it is about the kindness as well of rock stars. And we'll have so many more interesting stories covering Fleetwood Mac, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Jim Morrison, my favourite American artist, Aerosmith, Deep Purple, and so many more David Bowie stories coming. So see you all next week. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like. Thank you, everybody.